One of my favorite Frugal things to do is to repurpose and upcycle containers. These are all around my house, from the spice drawer to the cleaning cabinet, and then to the shower. This video shows you how you too can make elegant transparent labels for pennies using things you probably already have around your house. To make these labels, you'll need laser printed text or images. These are all around us. Most commercially printed papers are printed on laser printers. Anything that has a matte finish is a very good candidate for making a transparency. Paper bags, flyers, statements, bills are all excellent candidates to use for these labels. If you have your own laser printer, you will have the most flexibility, of course. If you don't and you want something custom, office stores or public libraries usually have laser printers and will charge a fairly small fee for their service. If you're unsure that you have a suitable text or image, try it on a small part of the paper that you won't mind losing, just in case the technique doesn't work for it. With access to a laser printer, you have a world of possibility open, and you're pretty much just limited by what you can find or create. You can fit a lot of labels on one sheet of paper. You'll also need a type of clear tape. I've had much success with packaging tape, scotch tape, and crystal clear contact paper. I've been successful using matte finish scotch tape, but I prefer the clear one. In terms of tools, you'll need a card to etch with. I just use an old gift card, scissors for cutting, a shallow plate with water. I just use a dinner plate. Optionally, you can use a small piece of a baby wipe. This sometimes helps remove stubborn fibers of paper. Lastly, you'll need something to label. These labels work best on clear or light-colored containers with their labels removed. This is an old warehouse store shampoo bottle I removed the label from, washed out, and refilled with product. The plain bottle with these custom labels is very minimalistic, which we really enjoy. Glass ACV bottles make great bottles for your homemade cleaning products, and these smaller glass jars are great for storing pantry foods. I also like using the contact paper to add a level of protection to my laptop trackpad. I really like this heart on the CVS bag, so I'm going to use some packaging tape to try to lift it off. I'm just eyeballing it to cut a piece that is slightly bigger than my image. Then I carefully try to center it over the image. You do want to keep at least a small border of tape around the image to ensure a nice hold on your container. Now I'm going to use my gift card and rub over the entire image to make sure there's a good connection between the tape and the image. Here I'm cutting the image and trimming the tape to my desired size at the same time. I'm also taking care to cut out any part of the tape that touched a dry hand. This is very important because the residue on your fingers can severely compromise the adhesive of your label, which will make it weaker. One awesome viewer taught me that you can use a paper clip to keep your place on the roll of packaging tape. When using packaging tape on small pre-cut labels like the one I'm showing here, the paper seems to be attracted to it, which can cause the positioning to be off. Use a small piece of rolled tape to hold the paper down, or use larger pieces of paper. In this next example with contact paper, I did place a small rolled tape on the underside to hold it down to the table. Just like the others, I cut my clear contact paper to size, positioned it on top of my image, and made sure that there's a strong connection between the contact paper and the image by using my card. Then I soak the piece in my plate of water for a few minutes. Once the paper is saturated with water, it's ready to be removed. Rub your thumb over the paper and it'll start rolling up as you see here. If it starts to feel a bit dry, dip it in some water and keep going until most of the paper is gone. Handling the tape with dry hands at any point will weaken the tape's hold. Make sure your fingers are wet when handling these. To get rid of the remaining fibers, I rubbed the label under a very thin stream of water to wash it off. The label had some stubborn fibers which I was able to remove with the baby wipe. Be very gentle as the baby wipe can also remove the image that is stuck on. Regular printer paper is much easier to remove since the fibers are much softer. You can see that I can peel away quite a bit of the paper, which makes removing it all much easier. Now I'm going to use my tap again to try to get all the remaining fibers off. Then I lay it on my countertop, adhesive side up, so I can finish up the rest of my labels. In working with my clear contact paper label, I noticed that the paper peeled off quite cleanly, and there was very little need for rubbing under the dripping water. And like my other labels, I placed this one adhesive side up so it can dry. Here I have the Zote soap label, which is untrimmed. To handle it, I make sure my fingers are wet and just use scissors to trim it to my desired size. As long as you're handling the label while everything is very wet, it'll be very easy to remove and reposition on your container just as you see here. I have a free printable with these oval labels in the description box for you to use and customize to your own preferences. The label size was specifically made for packaging tape. Now it's time to affix the label to your container. Once you find the desired position for your label, smooth it out to remove excess water and air bubbles. It will usually dry completely overnight and will be stuck onto your container as regular tape would be. Applying the contact paper transfer to my laptop is by far my favorite use. First, I start by cleaning my trackpad very well. Then I laid the transfer in front of the laptop to trim off the excess of the sides. I took a lot of care here to make sure that I was holding the paper with my fingernails as much as possible to avoid damaging the adhesive. It is important to note that you should let your contact paper dry fully before applying it to your laptop. Here I did have some moisture, but I was very careful to make sure it didn't enter the cracks. If you apply the sticker while wet, do so at your own risk. These smaller labels using Scotch tape can make great daily reminders. These labels make me especially happy because I feel like I got something custom and awesome that someone would actually pay a significant amount of money for, but I made it for a fraction of the price. It's easy to go overboard like Oprah and her cars. You get a label, you get a label, you get a label, you get a label, you get a label. Everybody gets a label!